Hey guys, I'm getting knee deep in pictures here now, but if you don't mind watching them, looking at this, I don't mind sharing them because they just sit in buckets. They're getting creased and faded and collecting dust. This is at the Vancouver Island, the Forest Museum. Old sled mounted steam donkey, 2-drum yarder, high lead for a wooden tree. I did a video years ago. It's called Logging Camp or Logging Camp 2. This I kind of went over it all in there, but what happened here, the rock drill was broke, so I was left on my own to run the excavator, muck out the quarry, and they shot the blast, and then I had to load it in the truck, take it down the road, and then spread it with the D8 and run over it with the grousers and punch it into 3" minus, and it was cool. It was a one-man show. But they didn't give me enough instruction on the DJB rock truck, the 25. So I was loading it, and I swung up here, somewhere around here. I was loading it on a hill, and they didn't tell me. I maxied the air brakes, and I swung around, and by the third bucket, I swung around, and it was leaving. It was driving away by itself. And it went down 100, 150 feet and crashed into the bank here, still running. The fan shroud hit the fan, made the worst awful noise in the world, just grinding away. So ran down, got it shut off. It didn't damage it, put a little dent in the back of the box. Couldn't have been good for it. But after that, the foreman is like, oh, you should have left it, because loading on a hill, you're supposed to leave it in first gear, idling against the torque converter, because the brakes don't hold. I felt like an idiot. I wasn't told that, so I didn't know. Usually you don't leave something in gear, but you assume the brakes will hold it. That was a road heading up there on the Skeena River, Windsor River, way up North BC. Big wood, all decadent wood though, like really big, but just dead. And so it should be logged. Dead tops and rotten. That was the Daewoo I grew up in. Yuck, I still don't like it. This was way cooler, this stuff. But I mean, it had, like this spruce here, this thing is probably 6-7 feet at the butt, and top's all dead. There's lots of hemlock and spruce up there. It should be logged. This was C&L Logging. This was a job they had up in Murdo Creek. This was some horse logging we were doing locally here. Nothing to do with us. This was back when wood was worth money in, doesn't say the date. That would have been 97. Yeah, 96, 97, I think. So we were doing a little backyard logging job, and then this was going on next door. So of course, like loggers, doesn't matter if you're using horses or helicopters, everybody's fascinated by logging if you're in it. So they come over and checked out what we were doing, but far before that ever happened, I was over checking out what they were doing. I think on my channel, there, if you type in horse logging, there's video of this working too. I learned something that day. I think these were called percherons. They were about 3 years old. And I think the theory is something like one horse can pull 3,500 pounds. The other horse can pull 3,500 pounds. That equals 7,000 pounds, but that's not the final dynamic. The final product is they can pull about 11,000 pounds if you can get them to work together in sync. So I just showed that it's kind of a life lesson there. The strength in partnership there is, there's almost another 30% just comes out of nowhere from them working together. It was quite fascinating. This was taken by someone else, Vancouver Island, the famous Macmillan Bloedel. That was our machine, the Hitachi 270. Spent a long time on. That was our grapple skidder, the one I pulled the transmission out of, and we put a $500 cheap one we found in the buy and sell in it, and it ran. Quite enjoyed that machine in a way, well, not getting off and having to set chokers. So if anyone has ever run a line skidder and you've had the choker and the knob snap back and hit you inside of the knee, there's not enough colors to see in your eyes and enough words to use to describe the pain. But to get in a grapple machine was pretty neat. That was Triple C logging in the early 90s up in Squamish, BC, right at the entrance to town. Really cool picture. Not because I took it, just that was just begging for the camera. So I'm surprised there wasn't a lineup of people. Everybody driving on the highway that could have seen that if they're in the right mind should have photoed that. That's a bygone thing. That was an old truck then. That was in that peat bog again. That's at Nancy Woodfin. So if you want some good looking logs hauled, that's who you call. It was on Vancouver Island. Peat bog. Yeah, we made money on that. We did fine on that. Nobody would touch it. Nobody would. They're just scared to death. We even had our skidder in there, skidding across the bog. You can see the water level right there, the shiny. It was just right there, like you could get a boot full depending where you stepped. And there's skidder. That was my little yarder. So I haven't run Modillo 44s. I've been in 09s while they're running, but I mean, the principle's the same. The carrier's a bit ugly on it. It was an old Timberjack 404. It's called a Tillman. There was, I think, less than a dozen of them made. A couple of them were on low beds. They're made out of Aberdeen, Washington. It was a 60-foot pipe, which is big for a mobile spar, like a skidder mount. It usually be 45 feet. It was a Skyline, so it had the third drum, plus the haywire, the straw line drum hanging off the side. It was air throttle, air controls. I did run it. I did skinning the rig and back and bringing them up the pole and upending them and making piles in the landing with them. I did play with it. I did learn. I'd sure like to put some more time on it, but just landscape shots from going up in the bush on the motorbike or four-wheeling on the weekends looking for logging. We live in a beautiful area here, but it's similar to Washington and Oregon. Our mountains are just a little bit more jagged. These aren't. Yeah, who wouldn't want to be out there? So many people go out there to camp and recreate and motorbike and light fires and get away from it all, and the poor old logger goes out there every day and has to endure it all. But it's a pretty good calling in life to get sent out to the bush every day. So they say a bad day in the bush is better than a good day in the city. The horse logging. That was my truck I built right out of high school. That was the sort yard a few years later. I started hauling logs, getting into that end of it a bit. Our log truck hauling out of a back country road. Oh, he was turning around. Yeah, you come out of here where all the mud is. He couldn't make the corner was too tight. There was a deep ravine and it narrowed, so he had to go up the road and do a 3-point. That was the skidder that was on that site. This is our machine. We did tons and tons and tons of jobs. They're just all over the place, just one after the other. These are all the same. The logger took a set. Mike, I didn't have that fancy a camera, so the guy we worked for, he took a bunch and gave me a full set of those too. I haven't really looked through these. I tried organizing them years ago, but they're all going to start to look pretty similar though here. Summer of '99. Is that the Bryan Adams song? Yeah, not even close. This was our little portable sawmill. This what got us started. I started with the Granberg with the little push mill, the chainsaw Alaskan mill, and then we got into this. And the tires were because when we brought our bulldozer around, we had to put tires on the low bed deck to move it, and we just leave them with it. So, but yeah, that was a Timber Wolf, Timber Pro. Yeah, Timber Pro. It would cut a 20-foot log. Yeah, what a life, being out in the bush, out in the rain. We'd cut one board at a time. Spring 1999, fall 98. That was one of our workers. That was a guy I went to school with. A big cedar. dad, and I'm in the next one, so I'll get straight to the good stuff. So, there's our log truck. I might have took a few too many of a few too many things. Filing up. It's not me. That was me cutting a cedar. That was one of our guys cutting a cedar. He got really good. Mike, man, he got good. He had never seen a chainsaw or a tree. Really, just, man, he was doing everything after running the cat. A swamp, we're skidding through that. It's like 4 feet deep. A lot of Hitachi ones. Running out of good stuff here. Oh, that was a job in itself. So that's a dim picture. That creek, I won't name it. We had the bright idea. Well, the owner said it was okay, so it must have been. We crossed that creek once, left our machines there, fueled them with jerry cans, logged the whole back of the property, and we threw the logs down there, and then we threw them across the creek, and federal fisheries came by with sidearms, 9mm handguns, read us our rights. We had the right to retain counsel, and we got in a little bit of trouble, but it all panned out. We weren't doing anything bad, but apparently, and that was 25 years. Oh man, that was before we had a mill. That was back in the mid-90s, or was it? No, 99. So yeah, 20 some years ago. These are history pictures. These were my neighbors. Place called Moresby Camp, which I think it's still such a place, but it's not a camp. It's all parks now. This was in the late 1950s. That's not my neighbor. Cool old trucks. I think that's a Hayes. My neighbor logged up there. I didn't find out till well later in his life that he did. He gave me a few pictures. I had them enlarged. Lima shovel. Pacific logging truck. What looks like a square tube, a burger yarder. Inside of a logging truck in the 1950s. I'll do a couple more, run this one long. That was them offloading with an A-frame. Nice load of spruce, dropping that in the chuck. Same picture again. I think that's illegal today, having the driver sit up there and tell the loader what to do. It's kind of an accident looking to happen. And they would barge their logs off the Queen Charlotte Islands. You can see even back in the 1950s, all the dead tops through here, all the white and the spear tops. I guess great to save the old growth forest, but I mean, good grief, they've been dying for hundreds of years. Like, everybody wants to preserve them. I say we cut them down and plant a vibrant new forest. There's the A-frame, single frame, stiff leg unloader. And one truck pulling, one truck pushing. This is called Rayonier. I know there's a Rayonier stateside. This was called, shoot, I don't know if it's Rayonier Canada or it's not ITT Rayonier. But it was called Alaska Pine, which I think was run by a company or invented or started by some brothers called the Corner, Koerner, Corner Brothers, I think. There's this trailer mounted big huge 110-foot burger yarder. It might be a 90. I think it's 100 or 110. It's just a monster. And you know you're in wood when you're only running 2 beads on the butt rigging. So normally it's 3. All right, I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks for watching.